Hey everybody, this week we're talking about how to store your camper, what kind of steps you need to take, where to store it, and other stuff like that. I'm Andy. This is We Love to Camp. Stay tuned. One of the things you need to consider is where are you going to store your camper. You see behind me a mini storage unit, and that's one of the options. We used to store ours here, and it was not too bad. Come in this gate and then come around here. You see that light pole right there? That was the problem. There was no place for us to park except for over here up against the fence. That was our assigned area. Right there, where the bushes are climbing up the pole, that was our parking spot. When we had the 26-footer, it was not a problem. But then once we got the 31-footer, it was unreal. It probably took me a good 30, 45 minutes one day. I have to pull up around, pull the truck up here towards the building, right by that man door. I have to jack it around to where the camper went on this side of that telephone pole. And then back it on down there. And then I can come out and around and out the gate. Once I got the 31-footer, that was not doable. Really easy with the 26-footer. I did it on my own, no spotter, no nothing, never bumped anything. There's advantages and there's disadvantages to being parked in a place like this. It is locked. There is a lock right there. It does have the razor wire, concertina wire, whatever you want to call it, up here. Help keep people from climbing over. Reality is if somebody wants in there, they're going to get in there though. It's semi-secured, but it's better than some of the other options. Things I did like about this one though, it's local. This is about 4 or 5 blocks away from the house. I actually came here and parked my truck all hooked up one day and then walked home because the plan was to get out of town as soon as I got off work. So I drove the wife's car to work, parked it at the house when I got home. I jogged over here. I walked, I didn't jog. And hopped in the truck, drove it home, and by the time I got there, they were ready to get in, and we left town. So there is an advantage to this. Locations, but there's no security cameras. There's nobody on watch. It's just these 2 little storage buildings, and that's it. But it's still more secure than some places. This is another option for storing your travel trailer. This is at the county fairgrounds. You see they've got quite a bit of land here that they rent out. Goes back quite a ways. This is a little bit better than some of them. They have better security. You got the fence, you got a RF key fob basically to get in, and there's cameras. But there's nobody present on site, and it's actually kind of hard to get a hold of people. I have seen batteries and propane tanks get stolen out of here. We used this when we lived over here, this part of the county. So for this part of the episode, I was planning on driving around through the countryside and through the residential areas, pointing out places where people have their travel trailers and fifth wheels stored. It just didn't feel right. It felt too much like showing, like those 2, showing where travel trailers are for people to steal. Instead of doing that, we'll just talk about it for a second here. There's advantages and disadvantages to having your camper stored at home. Obviously, you get to see it every day, so you'll know if something happens. You'll get to use it for additional space if needed. You got a guest for Christmas, throw them in the camper. Put the heater on, put them in the camper, just tell them not to turn on the water. You can hide Christmas gifts from the kids in there. There's plenty of good reasons. Plus, when it's time to go camping, just load up the camper and go. However, there's also disadvantages. A lot of people have to worry about the HOA. They have to worry about what other people think. Then there's also zoning laws, stuff like that. However, there's also a security problem. If everybody sees your camper out in the driveway every day, and then all of a sudden on Friday it's gone, everybody's going to know that you're gone for the weekend, if not longer. Because that obviously says, hey, I'm out camping. Some aspects, it's not as secure in your driveway also. There's no fence, there's no cameras, There's nobody keeping an eye on it. The reality is these days, a neighbor is not going to watch out for your stuff anymore. I know a lot of you have neighbors that will look out for your stuff, but a lot of them don't. Well, the driveway or the backyard is not a real safe place to go. You will get to see it more often, and you'll know if it comes up missing, you'll be able to tell the police it happened sometime Friday night, as opposed to saying, I haven't been there for 3 months, I haven't seen it. Plenty of campers get stolen every year. Don't go thinking that it can't happen to you, because it can, regardless of where you have it, and regardless of what you do. A determined thief is going to get whatever he or she wants. All you can do is make it inconvenient for them to steal. Personally, since ours is at the campground and I feel pretty safe with it out there, I haven't done a whole lot to make it inconvenient for them to steal. I have a padlock on the tongue that slows them down by 10 seconds. You can have a cordless grinder or a bolt cutter to get that off. But I also have the front of it sitting a lot lower than anybody's hitch would be. Now they need to cut the lock, put a battery on, and try and raise it up. You can run a chain in between the front and back tires and padlock it. Something I've seen that I liked is somebody took a big piece of pipe and slid it over the tongue. And I can't remember how they had it locked, but they had it locked to where you couldn't get to the lock very easily. That was a really good way. Now, of course, something I think is probably more common than your travel trailer getting stolen would be somebody breaking in, stealing your television, homeless person breaking in and staying there, kids breaking in and just being kids. I hate saying it, but teenagers cause a lot of damage everywhere. So vandalism and break-in is what I'm more concerned about personally. And again, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. I try and park ours wherever it is we go, storage lot or at the storage of the campground. I always try to park it beside something bigger and more expensive and prettier than ours. If I can make them look the other way and not even see what we have, I feel better. But if you drive around the countryside, you'll see campers. There's another one. You'll see campers everywhere. You'll see houses that have 2 or 3 of them. I'm about to come up on one that has a fifth wheel and a smaller Class C sitting right out front of their house. And then down the road on the right, there's going to be 2 fifth wheels sitting over there. Those ones are a little run down and garbage, but these 2, I'm passing by them right now, they're only a few years old. You can store them at home if it's legal and if you have the room, and you'll save some money that way too. I think we're paying 45 or 50 bucks a month, which for storage, that's not bad, at least not close to a large city. Even at 50 bucks a month, that's still what, $600 a year. Now, the one I feel the least comfortable with is mooching a place off of a friend or a family member. You've got a cousin or a sister or something, or even mom and dad got a farm. You ask them if you can keep it just off of their driveway. It'll be safe out there. And of course, family is almost always going to say, yeah, no problem. Odds are they really don't want to see your camper there every day. They're not going to pay a whole lot of attention. If they come home from work one day and it's not there, they're going to assume that you came and grabbed it, that you're going camping, when in reality, it was some dude that just come and stole your stuff, and nobody's saying anything about it because nobody realizes that it's stolen. You can put a GPS on your camper, and there are some good systems. Most of them are kind of junk, but the problem is, once they get it somewhere, if they disconnect the battery, then the power supply to the GPS is gone, and the battery on the GPS will only last for 12 hours, 6 hours, maybe 24 at the most. So if you don't find out that it's stolen immediately and track it immediately, you're not going to recover your camper with the GPS. Another thought on storing your camper at home, especially if you live out in the country, rodents. Rodents love cornfields. They live off of it, obviously. When it comes wintertime, they're looking for shelter. They're gonna chew their way into your camper. Keeping it at home, less likely, but it can easily happen. Now, you go to a storage unit or a campground, They spend a lot of money spraying to keep bugs and pests out, which keeps a lot of the rodents out also. They got traps set up everywhere for catching rodents. They actually take measures to keep the rodents away from all of the stuff that's on their property. So there is that, but it's still more on you to keep them out of your camper. Plug up all the holes with steel wool or caulking or something. Getting rid of all foods. You can set up traps. The sticky traps are kind of cruel, kind of mean, if that matters to you. It doesn't matter to some people. But the sticky traps will, obviously it just glues them to the trap. They will pull and tug and literally rip off a leg to get off of it. And that's not cool. Plus now you've got a mouse bleeding, running around through your camper, and no telling where he's gonna go to die. And then you have to smell him. That's never good. Snap traps, those are probably the best. As, you know, it kills them, sure, but it's instantaneous. They go up looking for some peanut butter and lights out. Next 3 photos are actually off of Google, so I'm not showing anybody's house where they can get stolen. So watch where you park when you park in the driveway. If you're hanging over the sidewalk like this one almost is, you'll get Karen calling the police. This guy, he's sitting in there a lot nicer. He's on his own property. Should still consider parking it off to the side of the house. You see he's got a gravel pad off to the right. Now this one is the dream. This is the Taj Mahal. Of course, I would have it filled up halfway with old cars and be working in there too. So I guess that'd be a double advantage. So that's it for this week's episode. Hopefully you might have learned something. Still, probably best bet to keep it at the house just because you save so much money. But there are better alternatives for better reasons. Living out in the country, putting it in the backyard might be the best of all worlds except for the rodents. But whatever, pick your poison. Just really look into what you're doing and try and think like a thief. That's the best way to outsmart one, is to try and think like one. Until next time, see you guys at the campgrounds.